When a poor mother is forced to appear before a judge for a parking violation, she brings her daughter with her. The judge takes one look at the child, invites her to sit with him, and asks if she's hungry. When the little girl says she is, he makes an astonishing decision. In Providence, Rhode Island, a young mother headed to court, holding tightly to the hand of her 6-year-old daughter. At first glance, her appearance in court didn't seem serious, as the violation was related to parking, and the fine imposed was only $100. But for her, that fine was a small fortune, enough to worry her deeply. They entered the courtroom nervously, and the mother began scanning the faces of those present and the court official with pleading looks, hoping for mercy. Janis, her daughter, was unaware of the seriousness of the situation as she looked around the courtroom with innocence and wide eyes. She had no idea about the possible impact this day could have on her life and her mother's life. She was a single mother raising her child alone, and she worked as a waitress, which meant long hours for little pay and a daily struggle to provide for Janis's needs. On the day of the incident, she had stopped for a moment to buy medicine for her daughter. She had parked the car by the curb, intending to quickly go into the pharmacy, get the medicine, and come back again. And now, here she was, facing a fine and standing on the edge of poverty once again. Judge Frank Caprio entered the courtroom and took his seat. He immediately noticed the young mother and her daughter, and Judge Caprio smiled at the little girl. He loves having children in the courtroom because they always lighten up the formal atmosphere. When her case was called, the mother stepped forward and spoke in a steady voice, but the underlying pressure was clear. "Your Honor, it was a mistake," she said, and recounted the events of the day and how urgently Janis needed her medicine. The mother chose her words carefully. She didn't want to talk too much about her financial problems while her daughter was present. Judge Caprio listened intently, his eyes occasionally moving between the mother and Janis. The judge sensed the mother's struggles. He respected the way she spoke about it, and he recognized the balance she was desperately trying to maintain. On one hand, she wanted to admit her mistake and let the law take its course, but she couldn't afford the consequences. On the other hand, she did everything she could to protect her daughter. Judge Caprio looked from the mother to Janis, smiled at her, and she smiled shyly. Then he said, "Janis, would you like to come up here and help me?" His voice was warm like a grandfather's. The courtroom was used to the usual routine of legal proceedings, always tense and sometimes boring, but this move from the presiding judge took everyone by surprise. Janis hesitated a little, but she was curious. She looked at her mother for approval, and when her mother nodded, she headed toward the bench. Judge Caprio gave her a small chair to stand on so he could look her in the eyes. Once the little girl settled in, he turned to her and asked, "How was your day?" Janis was drawn in by his gentle voice and trusted him. She smiled a little and said she was fine. Then he told her there was a small problem with the parking ticket her mother got. Her mother explained the circumstances to her in a way she could understand, without using legal terms or anything a 6-year-old girl couldn't grasp, while all eyes in the courtroom were focused on the little girl. He then said that she should help him make the decision. First, he told her that her mother could pay the full fine, then the second option was that she could pay only part of it. Or if she had any other ideas, he told Janis that they could do something else as well. The court set aside the usual formalities, and now everyone was watching Judge Caprio's interaction with the girl. Janis furrowed her little brow in a frown, and the weight of the entire decision rested on her small shoulders, and it seemed that she realized that, after deep thought. She turned to Judge Caprio and told him that she thought her mother should only pay $50. When Janis spoke, her voice was clear and confident. A light laugh passed through the courtroom, and everyone nodded respectfully at the little girl's fair judgment. Judge Caprio smiled with his eyes and nodded seriously, accepting Janis's decision with a nod, thanking her for the role she played in today's session. But then his eyes sparkled with a glint. Judge Caprio was still fully aware of the mother's dilemma. He wanted to help her and ease her burden, and at the same time, he wanted to show Janis that the law is something to be respected, not feared. So he leaned forward and did something that made the mother gasp in surprise. He said, "There is another option. Are you hungry? Have you eaten?" Today, he surprised everyone in the courtroom as the judge took an approach no one expected. For Janis, these were the most natural questions in the world. The judge was right. She was hungry and she hadn't eaten yet. The judge said, "All right, what if I told you that I will dismiss the ticket?" "Exactly. If your mother makes just one promise." Janis wasn't sure what was happening, but her mother breathed a sigh of relief. Then Janis asked the judge, "What promise?" With a gentle, calm smile, he told her that if her mother promised to take her out for breakfast, the violation would be dismissed. The offer hung in the air for a while. Janis frowned again, looked at her mother, then at Judge Caprio again, then slowly nodded and said, "Okay." By that time, the people in the courtroom weren't sure whether they should smile or cry. Everyone was pleased with Judge Caprio's proposal, and at the same time, they were amazed by the fair way he applied the law. After all, the law was there to protect people, not to harm them. The judge's compassion and kindness touched the hearts of everyone in the courtroom. Janis's mother was clearly moved as the reality of the situation hit her. Just a few hours ago, this court session seemed like a mountain before her. But now her daughter had earned a seat among the real judges. Judge Caprio nodded seriously to Janis and said, "You have shown us how important kindness and understanding are." His words and example were a powerful lesson for everyone present, as he showed that there is something deeply moral about the place of mercy in the justice system. When the session ended, Janis and her mother walked out holding hands. They didn't just leave a legal dispute behind, they left having learned an important life lesson. A simple act of kindness from the judge changed the way they thought about the application of the law. Sometimes the spirit of the law is more important than the letter of the law. Do you think this was a fair judgment? Have you ever been in a courtroom where the judge showed unexpected compassion like this? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. But for now, we're done here. See you in the next video.